You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin.
I'd spent all week getting ready for Erica's birthday dinner. She'd been talking about this night for weeks. How perfect it was going to be, how all her high society friends would be there. So I figured I'd get it right. I put on the best shirt I had, pressed it just right so it didn't wrinkle, polished my shoes until they gleamed, and I even found white gardenias, the flowers she said months ago were her favorite. I figured I'd surprise her. The dinner was at this fancy rooftop place in the city. Glass floors that looked out over everything, crystal light fixtures that made everything feel like a movie set. I felt a little out of place, but I didn't mind. I wanted to make her happy. Erica arrived fashionably late, like always. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Nice try, but a polo shirt won't make you handsome." Her friends giggled, and I could feel my face heat up. The whole dinner felt like a joke. They mocked my job, my clothes, my car. Every little thing about me was fair game. They tried to act like they were just joking, but I could tell they were serious. And Erica, she didn't step in. She just smiled and laughed, like it was all part of the show. I'd worked hard to get here, to make sure the night was perfect for her, and this is what I got. Then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, she stood up, glass in hand, and looked around the table. "You know," she said, her voice way too loud, "guys like you should be lucky we even let you near our table." Felt like a punch to the gut. Without even waiting for a response, she turned on her heel and walked out, leaving me there in front of everyone, feeling small and stupid. And then the waiter brought the bill, $9.03, 18 for 14 people. I didn't even argue. I pulled out my card and paid. Everyone watched. They were still smiling, still laughing, but I knew what they were really thinking. What the hell was I doing there? I walked out of that place with the weight of it all pressing down on me. Erica, her friends, all of it. And for the first time, I didn't want to go home. I needed space to breathe. I paid the bill without a word. The waiter didn't say anything either, but I could feel the stares, the pity, the amusement, whatever it was they thought of me. I didn't care. I was already tired of caring. Instead of going home, I walked. 30 blocks, or maybe it was 40. Didn't really matter. My feet moved on autopilot just like everything else in my life lately. I passed closed repair shops with their faded, for lease signs, gas stations that smelled like stale fuel and cheap cigarettes. The streets got quieter the farther I walked, until it was just me and the sound of my shoes hitting the cracked pavement. I replayed every insult over and over. The jokes about my job, how she always called it blue collar, like it was a crime. The way she rolled her eyes when I talked about my family, like they weren't good enough for her, for us. The way she'd laugh when she talked about my truck, like it was some joke no one else got. I'd never been one of her people. I was just there, a novelty. After what felt like hours, I finally turned back and headed home. My place was quiet, too quiet. I stepped inside and saw the white gardenias sitting untouched on the kitchen counter. They were perfect. I was perfect for once. But she didn't care. I put them in a vase, set them on the table, and stared at them for a minute. They didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve her. I walked to the bathroom and grabbed a sticky note from the drawer. $903. 18-inch, I wrote, carefully, the numbers standing out in stark black ink. I stuck it to the mirror. It wasn't just the money, it was the humiliation. It was everything. I stood there, staring at it, trying to put the pieces together. 2 years. I'd spent 2 years bending over backwards for her, for this relationship. All the dinners, the weekends, the trips to places I couldn't afford, the stupid gifts I'd bought her because I thought it'd make her happy. But it was never enough. Not once did she look at me like I was worth it. It was always just a game to her. I moved back to the kitchen, grabbed my phone, and scrolled through the bank transactions. I started adding things up. Dinners that cost more than I made in a week, little gifts I bought because I thought it'd impress her. Hell, even the weekends we spent at some overpriced cabin I couldn't really afford. Each one felt like a little piece of me was chipped away. And now I was just a joke to her and her friends. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at the numbers. My hand was still gripping my phone, but my head was somewhere else. I thought I was doing all the right things, trying to be the guy she wanted. But she wasn't trying to be the person I needed. The silence of the apartment felt like a weight on my chest. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the shame of being the butt of her jokes, or the realization that she didn't care enough to see me. I looked at the gardenias again. They looked so damn pretty, so perfect, sitting there on my kitchen table, a symbol of everything I tried to do right. But they didn't belong here. Not anymore. I didn't sleep much that night. Couldn't. All I could think about was how stupid I'd been. How I let Erica treat me like that for so long. But I knew I needed to do something, anything, to stop this. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was, done. Done with the lies, the manipulation, the shame. The next morning, I grabbed my phone and called Jenny. She answered on the second ring. "What's up, Daniel?" I exhaled. "I need to talk." "Can you talk?" "Of course. What's going on?" I ran a hand through my hair. "It's about Erica. The whole thing." She was quiet for a second, like she was trying to gauge where I was going with this. "What happened?" I told her everything. How the dinner went down, how she humiliated me in front of everyone, how I felt like I'd been played for 2 years. By the time I finished, my voice was hoarse, like I'd been shouting even though I hadn't said a word. Jenny was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, calm and steady, like she always did when she was trying to get me to see the bigger picture. "You're not overreacting. You're just finally done being lied to." I let her words sink in. It wasn't just the breakup that stung. It was realizing how much I'd been made to feel like I wasn't good enough, like I was disposable. But hearing Jenny say it, hearing her tell me I wasn't crazy for feeling this way, made me feel a little less insane, a little less broken. "I don't know what to do," I said, the words coming out harder than I expected. Jenny's voice softened. "You don't have to do it alone. Call Marcos. He's the kind of guy who'd know how to help you get the proof you need." I let that sit for a moment. Marcos was smart, too smart for his own good sometimes. I knew he'd get it, so I hung up with Jenny and called him next. "Marcos, I need you, man." He answered on the third ring, no pleasantries. "You okay?" "I don't know yet, but I need your help. I need to go through Erica's shit. Text messages, bank statements, whatever I can find to prove what she's been doing to me." My voice was tight, but I wasn't apologizing anymore. Not for needing help. Not for what I was about to do. Marcos didn't hesitate. "I'll help. You've got everything backed up?" "Not yet." "All right, I'll get the ball rolling. We'll do it right." I could hear him typing in the background. Marcos had always been the tech guy, the one who could make sense of anything digital. If there was proof hidden somewhere, he'd find it. "I'm serious about this," I said. "I need this to end, Marcos. I can't let her get away with it." "I hear you, man. Let's put an end to it. I'm in." We set a time to meet, and I spent the next few hours going through everything I could find. Texts, emails, bank records, credit card statements. I was too angry to even focus at first, but slowly the patterns started to emerge. Small things at first. Erica's emergencies were always convenient. Rent she needed covered. But then there were Instagram photos of her lounging at spas, dinners at restaurants I couldn't even pronounce. I didn't need to be a genius to see that something was off. When I looked at her client dinners, all I saw were pictures of bottle service, people laughing in the background, the kind of nights she never told me about, but always needed money for. And then it clicked. Her spending wasn't just careless. It was deliberate. She was spending my money on things that didn't matter. That's when Marcos confirmed what I already knew. "This isn't just her being irresponsible. This is financial abuse, man," he said when I showed him what I'd found. "She's using you to fund her lifestyle." I felt my chest tighten. Abuse. The word sounded so ugly, but it fit. It made sense. Marcos was already organizing everything, screenshots, texts, social media posts, and he set up a shared folder. "We'll call this accountability," he said, and I agreed. That's exactly what this was. I wasn't asking for forgiveness anymore. I just wanted to hold her accountable. "We're going to show her who's really in control," Marcos said, his voice hard. We worked late into the night, piecing everything together, stacking receipts and credit card charges, categorizing them. It felt like the more I uncovered, the less I recognized the person I'd been. I'd been a fool, a sucker. But now I was going to be the one in control. And Erica was going to have to face the truth. She was going to see the consequences of her lies. I just had to wait for the right moment to expose it all. The more we dug, the more I started to feel sick to my stomach. Marcos and I sat in front of my computer for hours, scrolling through Erica's bank transfers and comparing them with the pictures she posted online. The gaps in her story were glaring. We cross-referenced receipts and Instagram posts, designer shopping hauls, weekend trips to places I'd never even heard of, all the luxury rentals she'd booked for a friend's wedding. Yet every time I saw a charge, the details didn't add up. The lavish trips didn't match any of the stories she'd told me. I found transfers for thousands of dollars, money I'd sent to her as loans for her supposed rent or emergencies. But the charges told a different story. I froze when I saw the one from a few months back. It was for an event company, one she'd told me her friend was running into the ground. A loan, she'd called it. But the receipt was for a party with fire dancers, a sushi bar, and a VIP section that definitely didn't belong to a failing business. It was a joke. I slammed my fist on the desk. This is insane, Marcos. I paid for a goddamn circus. Marcos just shook his head. You weren't the only one paying, man. Look at this. He clicked through to the next page and I saw it, her usual steakhouse. The one she always said she hated, that I'd stopped suggesting because she never wanted to go. I thought it was a small thing, just a little preference. But she'd been going there every single week, sometimes more than once, with friends. Hundreds of dollars spent at a place she swore she couldn't stand. You have got to be kidding me? I muttered, feeling a wave of anger wash over me. Marcos clicked through more pages, his eyes narrowing as the evidence piled up. There's a pattern, man. A pattern of manipulation. Erica's been using you to fund her lifestyle. She's been lying to you for a while. I just stared at the screen. The money didn't even seem real anymore. I was in deep, and I didn't even realize how deep until now. By the time Jenny joined the video chat, I was ready to break. She knew the basics of what I'd been going through, but seeing all the numbers, all the lies laid out in front of her made the situation feel different. You've been right, Daniel, Jenny said after a few minutes of looking at the spreadsheet. This wasn't a couple of bad decisions. This was a pattern. She leaned closer to the camera, her eyes serious. She's been using you. This is financial abuse. I exhaled, feeling something heavy lift off my chest. Hearing her say it so plainly made it real in a way I hadn't been able to make sense of myself. Marcos clicked on a new tab where he'd been working on a detailed spreadsheet. Here, he said, I've broken it down. Transportation, entertainment, loans, gifts. He scrolled through the categories, and the total kept climbing. $28,000. I stared at the number. It didn't even seem real. $28,000. That was more than I made in a year. How did I not see this? I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. Jenny's voice was calm but firm. You didn't see it because you were trying to be the guy she wanted you to be. You were trying to do the right thing. But all I could see now was the truth. Erica had used me as an ATM for 2 years. I wasn't even a person to her. I was a resource. And when she drained me dry, she tossed me aside, like I was nothing. It's not about getting the money back, Marcos said, breaking through my thoughts. It's about stopping the lie, exposing her for what she really is. I nodded, even though my stomach was churning. The money felt irrelevant now. It was the lie that needed to end. I couldn't let her keep walking around acting like she was the victim. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. We all knew what we had to do next. We weren't just going to expose her to her friends or family. We were going to go bigger. We were going to make sure everyone knew who she really was. Marcos was already planning it out. We'll set it all up, timing's key. We'll hit her where it hurts. Jenny agreed. This isn't just about revenge, Daniel. It's about showing her that she can't treat people like this without consequences. I looked down at the spreadsheet one more time, then at the pile of receipts and bank statements on my desk. I didn't care about the money anymore, but I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not anymore. She thought she could walk all over me. Well, now it was my turn to take control. And when I was done, there'd be no more lies left for her to hide behind. We had the proof now. Everything was laid out: receipts, texts, social media posts, the entire financial breakdown. But it wasn't enough just to have it. I needed to expose Erica, and to do that I needed a plan. I needed to hit her where it hurt. I started mapping out her vulnerabilities, the places where her image mattered most. 3 events stuck out in my mind. The first was her parents' annual charity breakfast. It was the perfect setup. A room full of her friends, her family, and the city's most powerful people. The kind of crowd where appearances meant everything. She'd always pushed me to be the respectable boyfriend, the one who would make her look good, who'd know how to shake hands and smile just right. I could already see her doing her fake "we're so perfect together" speech to her mom and dad. Then, there was the corporate mixer for her PR firm. I'd been to a few of those boring, stuffy events where everyone pretended they didn't know each other's business. The whole place was built on image, and Erica thrived on it. She was always talking about how important her job was, how hard she worked to climb the ladder. The reality? She'd been using me to fund her lifestyle while she pretended to work 60-hour weeks. And finally, there was the YouTube live interview with that lifestyle vlogger she'd been bragging about. Erica had been talking about this for months. How she'd be the next relationship guru, giving advice on healthy relationships and how to cultivate a meaningful connection. I could already picture her sitting there, talking about how trust and honesty were the foundations of her life, while the truth hung just below the surface, ready to explode. I wasn't going to let her get away with that. I opened up the folder with all the documentation we'd collected and started outlining exactly what I'd share. And when I'd hit her at the charity breakfast first. Her friends and family would be there, and I wasn't going to let them keep thinking she was the perfect daughter, the perfect girlfriend. I would hand over her spending logs, the bills for emergencies that were actually spa days and shopping trips. All of it. After that, the PR mixer would be next. I'd drop the receipts from the events I'd paid for. Money that should have gone to her rent, to whatever sob story she'd sold me. I knew her colleagues would feel the burn. Then the final strike, the YouTube interview. I'd send a text to the vlogger, give her the full story behind Erica's fake, healthy relationship persona. Erica had been using me as her financial cushion for too long, and she needed to face the consequences. I wasn't going to give them any choice but to see her for who she really was. I put my phone down and stared at the documents. I couldn't let it just be me and Marcos. Erica had stepped on enough people to get where she was. People who were just as tired of her shit as I was. I needed help. I thought about Madison. She used to work with Erica, until Erica stabbed her in the back by stealing her marketing pitch and taking credit for it. Madison had been quiet about it, but I knew she was bitter. She'd never come out and said it, but I knew the truth. I sent her a text. "If you ever wanted your truth heard, I'll stand with you." I stared at the message for a long time, hoping she'd answer. When the notification finally popped up a few hours later, I opened it, heart pounding. Library. Tuesday. 3rd floor. I leaned back in my chair. I wasn't sure if Madison was going to be willing to go as far as I was, but I wasn't going to wait around to find out. I needed her on my side. Needed her to show the world what Erica had done to her. I looked over the messages one more time, making sure everything was in place. Then I started drafting my message for the vlogger. If Erica thought she was going to sit in front of a camera, acting like some relationship expert, I was going to make sure her own lies came crashing down in front of thousands of people. I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. I wasn't the guy Erica had wanted me to be, but I was the guy she was going to regret crossing. And I wasn't stopping until the truth came out. I met Madison in a quiet alcove of the library, the kind of spot where the hum of people talking and pages turning felt muffled. The air was thick with the smell of old books, and the only sound was the soft click of keys on a nearby computer. She was sitting at a small table, tapping her fingers on the top, looking like she'd been waiting there for hours. When I sat down across from her, she slid a thumb drive across the table. "Everything I've got on Erica," she said, her voice low. "You'll want to take a look at it. It's not just the pitch she stole. There's more." I didn't even hesitate. I grabbed it and shoved it into my laptop. The screen flickered for a second, then the files opened up. Madison's stolen marketing work was front and center. Her pitch, her ideas, the whole thing, as if Erica had come up with it herself. The nerve of her. But it didn't stop there. Madison had gone deep. She'd pulled email chains, internal memos, anything that showed how Erica took credit, got promoted, and then slowly, carefully pushed Madison out of the picture. "It wasn't just the work," Madison said quietly, watching me scroll through the files. "She turned everyone against me, played me like a fool, then made sure I was never part of the team again. She took everything, Daniel, and no one cared." I could see the anger simmering beneath her words, but there was no drama in her tone, no tears. She was done being the victim. She wanted clarity just like I did. "We don't need drama," I said, keeping my voice calm. "We need clarity. People need to see who she really is." Madison nodded, her face hard. "Yeah, I'm in." I took a breath, feeling like everything was coming together. I wasn't alone in this anymore. I had her and I had the evidence. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I was the only one carrying the weight of the truth. That night, after I left the library, I didn't go home. Couldn't. Instead, I sat at my desk, staring at the 3 folders in front of me. I'd been up late the night before, finalizing everything, each folder labeled carefully with the event it was meant for. One for the charity breakfast, one for the PR mixer, and the last one, the one I was most ready to drop, for the YouTube interview. I was interrupted by a call from Erica's mom. "Daniel," she said, her voice trying hard to sound warm, but it was obvious she was just going through the motions. "I think we need to smooth things over. I know things have been difficult, but I'm sure we can all find a way to." I didn't let her finish. "I'm not interested in smoothing anything over, Mrs. Collins." She paused. "I just think you should come to the breakfast tomorrow. For Erica. For all of us." I didn't even have to think about it. "I'm not coming. Daniel, this isn't helping anything. Erica is just, well, she's struggling, you know? She's having a hard time with all this. Please just be reasonable." I wanted to say so much more. Wanted to tell her how much of a game Erica had played, how her daughter had turned my life upside down. But I didn't. I hung up before I could say something I'd regret. Seconds later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Erica. "Let's be adults. Come to brunch. Don't be childish." The words hit me like a slap. Childish. She was calling me childish after everything? After how she humiliated me, used me, lied to me? I stared at the screen for a moment, fingers hovering over the keys. But I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had something better than words. I had proof. I had power now, and I wasn't going to waste it on her empty apologies or manipulative texts. Instead, I focused on the folders. I slipped the financial documents into the first one, proof of how she'd used my money for everything from spa days to bottle service nights. I sealed it carefully and set it aside. The second folder had the receipts from the PR mixer and the emails from her work that proved how she'd used me as her financial cushion. That one was next. And the last? The YouTube interview. I made sure the screenshots of her texts, the receipts, the social media posts, all of it was in there, ready to go. I wasn't about to let her sit on a public stage pretending she was the perfect partner when she'd been anything but. Each folder was a weapon, and tomorrow I was going to use them. I knew Erica would try to make me out to be the bad guy, but I wasn't worried. She couldn't lie her way out of this. With a deep breath, I stood up, grabbed the folders, and tucked them under my arm. I wasn't just walking away from the relationship anymore. I was walking towards something better, something real. The morning of the brunch, I dressed simply. Dark jeans, a button-down shirt, nothing flashy. I didn't need to try too hard to impress her parents. I just needed to show up. When I walked into the restaurant, Erica's parents greeted me with that same shallow warmth they always did. A smile that didn't quite reach their eyes. It was all smiles and pleasantries, but I could see through it. They'd always liked me well enough, But I was never the son they had in mind for their perfect little princess. Erica was already there, sitting with her family at a round table, her back straight, hands clasped neatly in front of her. She looked the part of the daughter they adored, the one who could do no wrong. But I knew what was about to happen. She stood up when she saw me, her smile too wide, too forced. "Daniel, I'm so glad you could make it," she said, her voice like a syrupy sweetness that didn't match the coldness in her eyes. "We were just waiting on you." The others at the table nodded, and I took my seat. The waiters came over to pour mimosas, and Erica raised her glass, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "To growth and shedding what no longer serves." The toast hit me like a slap, the dig aimed squarely at me. But I didn't flinch. I just smiled, keeping my gaze steady. Her friends giggled, thinking it was all part of the game. I wasn't playing anymore. I didn't need to say anything. Instead, I stood up, slow and deliberate, and reached into the folder I'd brought with me. I placed the first packet in front of her mother. "Clarity," I said, my voice calm, measured. I pushed the second folder across to Erica's father, then the last one to Erica. I watched as they looked at the packets, the light flickering in their eyes as they saw the labels. Spending logs, photos, itemized bills. I didn't need to explain. They would see it all. Erica's face tightened as she flipped open her folder, her fingers pausing as she stared at the first page. I saw her jaw twitch. The receipts, the luxury shopping, the emergencies that were actually spa days, shopping trips, nights out. The whole damn picture. She tried to laugh it off, tossing her hair over her shoulder, her voice too loud. "Oh, please, this is ridiculous." Her smile was strained, but I could see the panic starting to show through the cracks. "Daniel, this is some kind of game, right? This doesn't mean anything." I didn't say a word. I just sat back, watching her, let her spin her story. But Erica wasn't done. She leaned forward, her hands slamming down on the table. "You don't get it, do you?" she said, her voice rising, turning into that defensive rage I knew too well. "I was doing what I had to do. I worked hard for what I've got. And you?" She stopped, choking on her words, eyes darting to the others at the table, trying to read them. She tried to spin it, tried to blame me for not understanding her sacrifices. But it didn't stick. She was unraveling, and there was nothing she could say that would put the pieces back together. I just stayed quiet, didn't move, didn't argue. Let her talk herself into a hole. Then, from the other side of the table, Erica's grandmother, the only person who'd ever treated me like I mattered, looked down at the packet in front of her. She turned the pages slowly, her eyes scanning the receipts, the photos, the texts. And then, in a whisper that cut through the tension in the room, she said, "That's enough." Erica froze. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Her grandmother's voice had a weight to it, the kind that carried the truth without the need for anything else. It wasn't a reprimand. It wasn't an accusation. It was just a quiet, undeniable truth. Erica's eyes flicked to her grandmother, then back to the table, and I could see the mask slip. For a second, she wasn't the confident, perfect image she'd tried to project. She was just a girl who'd been caught. The silence stretched on, thick and uncomfortable. Erica's face was pale, and she didn't know how to handle the truth that was now sitting in front of her. Her friends were shifting uncomfortably in their seats, unsure of how to react. Her parents were still, eyes glued to the papers in front of them, but I could see the cracks forming in their perfect little world. The brunch went on, but the mood had completely shifted. Erica tried to make small talk, but it felt forced, like she was trying to pull the conversation back to safe ground, and it wasn't working. The silence grew louder with each awkward attempt she made to reframe the narrative. By the time the meal was over, no one was in a hurry to leave. The weight of what had happened lingered in the air. Erica's image, her carefully constructed persona, had started to crumble, and I wasn't going to be the one to fix it for her. I didn't need to say anything else. The truth had been laid bare, and for once, I felt like I was finally free from all the lies. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. I rolled over, still groggy, and grabbed it off the nightstand. Dozens of missed calls, texts, and notifications. My heart started pounding in my chest. I swiped through the screen, eyes widening as I saw what was happening. Erica's meltdown had gone public. The texts from her friends, people I didn't know, even strangers. I could feel the chaos building. Her Instagram had already gone dark. Posts were disappearing faster than I could refresh the feed. Her usual perfectly curated life, crumbling. The comments on the few remaining photos were a mix of disbelief and gossip. I couldn't help but feel a little sick to my stomach. Watching her go down in flames wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. It was messy. She was messy. But I wasn't done yet. I scrolled through the texts that had come in. Mostly from friends I hadn't spoken to in a while, all asking if I was okay, if I needed anything. I ignored most of them, but one stood out. It was from Madison. Erica's ex-boss is investigating her. They're looking into everything. I sat up, the weight of her words sinking in. Erica wasn't just losing face with her friends and family. She was losing everything. And it didn't stop there. My phone started ringing, her name flashing on the screen. I answered with a quiet, "What now, Erica?" She launched right into it, voice full of venom, like she hadn't just been exposed in front of everyone she knew. "You think you've won? You think you've ruined me?" Her words were sharp, frantic. "You don't know what you've done. You're going to regret this." I didn't respond. I let her rage on for a while, barely holding on to my patience. I knew what was coming next. It always followed the same pattern with her. The anger would fade into desperation, and she'd try to beg. Sure enough, after a few minutes, her tone shifted. "Please, Daniel, I don't know what came over me. I never meant for any of this to happen." Her voice broke just enough to make it sound convincing. "I'm sorry. Please, just let's talk about this." I felt the familiar disgust rise in me, but I stayed quiet. I didn't need to listen to this anymore. I was done. Then came the threats. The last round. "You think you've won?" She spat. "I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. You won't get away with this." I hung up before she could finish. It wasn't worth listening to anymore. I didn't block her number right away. I waited for the next voicemail, the next round of abuse. When it came, I saved it. Another one, I saved it too. And then I blocked her. I wasn't interested in any more calls. No more begging. No more empty threats. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something in my gut told me it was important. I picked up. "Mr. Taylor?" A smooth voice asked. "This is Emily Matthews from Richter and Rowe, representing Erica Collins' company. We'd like to discuss a matter concerning one of our former employees." The blood drained from my face. "What's this about?" "We're conducting an internal investigation regarding Erica Collins' recent conduct. It's come to our attention that some of her actions may have had a negative impact on the company's reputation and overall performance. One of her former colleagues, Madison Miller, has provided substantial evidence regarding financial misconduct." I let her words sink in for a moment, feeling the knot tighten in my stomach. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that Erica's behavior has become a liability. Madison has presented us with documentation that shows she's misappropriated company funds, and we're now looking into the possibility of reinstating Madison into her former position. With a raise, of course, considering the circumstances." I almost laughed, but it came out more like a short exhale. Erica's actions were coming back to bite her in a way I never expected. "Is there anything I need to do?" I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. "Not unless you wish to provide further testimony. But you are entitled to share any relevant information regarding Erica's conduct," she replied, her tone professional, detached. I didn't have to think long. "No, thank you. I'm not interested in getting involved further." She gave a polite nod over the phone. "Understood. If you change your mind, you can reach out to our office." The call ended, and I sat there in silence, letting the weight of it all settle in. Erica's fall was no longer just a personal issue. It was business. As I looked back at my phone, at the texts from Madison, the voicemails from Erica, the news of her impending suspension at work, it finally hit me. The truth, quiet, simple, and undeniable, had done more damage than I ever could have in a confrontation. I thought I needed to confront her, to fight for some kind of justice. But the truth, delivered calmly and without anger, was the hammer that shattered her. And I hadn't needed to lift a finger. For the first time, I realized that sometimes the best way to take control of a situation wasn't through a fight. It was by stepping back and letting the truth speak for itself. The ring had sat in my drawer for the last few weeks, untouched. I'd bought it 3 weeks before the breakup. Small, modest, something I could afford, paid for in installments. I thought it was going to be the start of something big. Promise. But it ended up sitting there, collecting dust, just like the future I thought I'd have with Erica. I couldn't keep it. It didn't belong to me anymore. It belonged to her, but not in the way I had hoped. I had to return it, to let go of that last piece of the life I thought I'd build with her. I drove to Erica's grandmother's house in the late afternoon, the sun dipping low, casting everything in a golden light that almost felt unreal. Her house was modest, set back from the road, with a small garden full of flowers. Something about the place had always felt warm, like it was untouched by the bullshit that seemed to follow Erica. When I knocked, Erica's grandmother opened the door with a smile, her face lighting up when she saw me. She wasn't expecting anything but quiet company, the way we'd always shared a moment when I came over, tea, some talk about the world, just the two of us. She motioned for me to come in, and I followed her into the kitchen. Her house smelled like old wood and fresh herbs, like the kind of home where people didn't have to pretend. We didn't say much as she made tea and set it down at the small table in her backyard garden. The flowers were in full bloom now, the same ones Erica used to care for, though I'd never seen her touch them herself. I sat across from her, the ring in my pocket, still feeling the weight of it. Her gaze softened as she poured the tea, watching me, as if she already knew what was coming. Without a word, I pulled the ring from my pocket and set it on the table between us. The small velvet box was a reminder of everything I'd given, everything I'd hoped for. She didn't ask questions, didn't demand an explanation. She just took the box in her hands, opened it slowly, and looked at the ring. For a moment, everything in me felt raw, exposed. I didn't expect her to say anything, but she did. Erica learned to take more than she gave, she said, her voice soft but firm. I've seen it for years now. She thinks she's entitled to everything, without giving anything in return. But you, Daniel, you deserved better than that. Her words hit harder than anything Erica had ever said to me. They weren't an accusation or a lecture. They were the truth, simple and clear, just like the quiet strength in her voice. I'd spent years trying to be what Erica wanted, trying to live up to expectations that were never mine to begin with. But it wasn't until now that I truly understood what it meant to be seen for who I really was. Thank you, I said, the words coming out slower than I expected. You're the only one in her family who ever saw me as more than just an accessory. Her smile was small, but it felt like a weight had been lifted. You're welcome, she said quietly. She didn't look at me with pity or sympathy, just respect. No one should be made to feel small, especially when they're giving everything they've got. You gave everything, Daniel, but it's time to stop giving it to the wrong person. I nodded, my chest feeling lighter with each word she spoke. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of everything Erica had asked of me. I'd been running on empty for so long, trying to please someone who would never appreciate it. But sitting here with her grandmother, hearing her speak the truth I'd needed to hear for so long, made everything else fall away. I don't know what happens next, I said, my voice steady. But I'm not going back to that. No, she agreed. You're not. We sat in silence for a while, the only sound the wind rustling through the garden. I didn't need to say anything else. I didn't need any more closure, any more explanations. This moment, this quiet understanding between us, was enough. Finally, I stood up, my hands shaking just a little. Thank you, I said again. Her smile was soft, knowing. You're welcome, Daniel. You're stronger than you think. I left her house with the weight of the ring behind me. I didn't feel the need to hold onto it anymore. I didn't need anything from the past to carry me forward. When I stepped outside, the world felt different. Lighter. I got into my car, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking in someone else's shadow. I was walking in my own light, and that was the beginning of something new, something real. And for the first time, I felt truly free. The next few days felt like a blur. I spent them canceling shared accounts, one after another. It was strangely freeing, cutting ties with everything that had once felt like it was mine. Our Netflix account, the gym membership she'd insisted on, the credit cards I had foolishly let her run up. Each cancellation felt like another step away from the person I'd been when I was with her. Like I was finally closing a door that should have been locked a long time ago. I started clearing out her things from my apartment. Her clothes, her books, the random little trinkets that never quite belonged. There were moments where I caught myself almost feeling bad, thinking I should have given her a chance to pick them up, or that maybe I should have left some of it as a reminder. But then I remembered what she had taken from me, what I'd allowed her to take. And I kept going, packing it all into bags for donation, or to be thrown out. There wasn't space in my life for her things anymore, for her memories. I wasn't going to be haunted by them. Once the apartment was cleaned up, I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote a repayment schedule. I didn't care about the money anymore. $903, $28,000, whatever. What mattered was that I was done. The email I sent to Erica and her family was short and to the point. A businesslike message, no emotion, just the facts. The financial reconciliation I was entitled to, the clear breakdown of what I'd paid for, and a final note. This is what is owed. Please arrange for payment within 30 days. When I hit send, there was no sense of victory, no rush of satisfaction. Just a calm certainty that I'd done what needed to be done. That night I ordered pizza, extra cheese, extra pepperoni, comfort food that I hadn't indulged in for months. I sat down on my couch, threw on my favorite action movie, the one I'd seen a dozen times, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed. I actually laughed, loud and free, like the kind of laugh that comes from the gut. Felt real. Felt good. The phone buzzed on the table beside me, and I picked it up without thinking. Madison had texted, "New office. New raise. Thanks for having my back." I smiled, the feeling of triumph bubbling up again. She'd been through so much, and I knew she deserved it. I texted back, "You earned it. Proud of you." My phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Jenny. I picked it up, not sure what to expect. "Hey, Daniel," she said. Her voice warm but with a tone that made me realize she knew something had changed. "You finally stopped drowning. Proud of you." I let her words sink in for a moment. I hadn't realized how much I'd been holding my breath until I finally exhaled. "I'm not trying to win anymore," I said, my voice steady but quiet. "Just trying to live like I deserve to." Jenny was silent for a second, and I could almost hear the smile on her face. "You do deserve it. Just don't forget that." I hung up and grabbed the white gardenias. They'd been sitting on my kitchen table, still perfect, still pristine. I didn't want to throw them away, but I also didn't want them to be a reminder of the past anymore. I took them to the park that was a few blocks away, one of the few places where the city felt quiet. I found a bench by the trees, the sun starting to dip low, casting long shadows over the grass. I set the flowers down gently, the petals soft beneath my fingers. It wasn't a goodbye. It wasn't for her. It was for me. I stood up, feeling the weight of everything I had let go of. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. I walked away from the bench, not looking back.